Welcome back to SpeterTV. Subscribe if you're new, hit the notification bell to let your speeder sense tingle when I upload. So, the new live action Lion King is dominating like a lion in a room full of gazelles. And it's to nobody's surprise really, but there are a good number of people who are just a little disappointed, or maybe a lot disappointed, that this did so well. Now, the last time I talked about this movie, I asked if it was really necessary. And since then, it's come out and I still haven't seen it, and I don't really plan to because I don't really care, I guess. But from what I've heard, the points I brought up in that first video seem to have applied pretty well to the actual end products. But there's only so much I can say about a movie I still haven't seen. So the real question that this has brought up for me is, when is any movie or show or whatever necessary? It's always been a term that sort of confused me in a way. And I'm still a little confused, and I might still be when this is over. I mean, my most basic response is that really no movie or show is necessary. I mean, you won't die without them, right? Yes, I'm right. If you're not sure about that, you have some thinking to do. But then, of course, I realized that the term necessary isn't really being used that literally. But still, it sounds weird to me when people say a movie has to justify its existence. It just sounds kind of weird to me if you're not talking from, like, the perspective of the studio putting money into it or something like that. Like, a movie or a TV show exists, and then until recently I haven't really thought about whether or not something should just exist creatively or not. This idea really first came to my attention with The Amazing Spider-Man, specifically the reviews from it. I remember them saying, they thought it was good, they thought it was bad, whatever, but they thought it did or didn't justify its existence, or was or wasn't necessary. So now I'm thinking, what do they mean by necessary? For The Amazing Spider-Man, I think it's pretty obvious. It's talking about it as a reboot, it covering a lot of the same territory as the Raimi movies, right? Is this different enough to separate itself from the thing that came very recently before it and that is still on our minds? Does this feel justified in our minds as something new that's intentionally here to replace something old? Okay, now in my head I get that. Back then, I didn't really. And more often than not, this question is applied to reboots and remakes and redos of various types. Is The Amazing Spider-Man justified as a reboot to the Raimi movies? Is The Lion King necessary after the original version, especially when you're animating it less expressively? Do you have something new or interesting to say that wasn't said previously in the last time that this thing was done? Or are you just doing the same thing over again and hoping people will like it more or just care enough to see it again? Is your goal to do something relatively new or to repackage something that's old in a new way? Is this reboot clearly a cash grab where you don't really have much new to say, but maybe you're about to lose a property if you don't do something with it? These questions are the kind of things that people mean when they ask if a reboot specifically is necessary. A reboot, a remake, or reduce, reuse, recycle, whatever. But then you have something original like, say, the Lego movie. Nobody before that movie came out would have thought that the Lego movie would be considered necessary after it came out. Just the idea of it alone sounds like shameless corporate advertising directly to children. Pretty much the Emoji Movie. But where the Emoji Movie had nothing to offer that wasn't in a contract, the Lego Movie clearly had ideas that it was working with. They had a reason to make the movie outside of just making money. And that's when a movie or a TV show or whatever is generally considered to be necessary or justified. You had something new to offer, and new is always relative because there's nothing new creatively. But you were able to repackage old stuff and present it to us in a way that feels fresh. Funny enough, I had a phase in my life where I had just a long stretch where I hated Dora with a passion. Yet the movie looks really interesting to me, and it actually seems like it might be necessary or justified by the common definition. Whether or not I actually see it is another question, because I almost never really see anything that doesn't have Spider-Man in it in the theater, due sheerly to a lack of motivation to leave the house sometimes. But it's just funny to me that we live in a world where the Dora the Explorer movie might end up being viewed as something that was necessary-ish. Necessary-ish, I'll say that. And then really quickly, a lot of times when people say something is necessary, they mean it seriously, and like this movie had something deep to say about the world and how we should all treat each other better, and something else that's good stuff. It's good stuff. Okay, I'm kind of sick, and if I talk long enough, I'll just turn into Batman. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Again, as I said in the beginning, hit the notification bell to let your speeder sense tingle when I upload. Like this video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, and I will see you when I'm Batman.